Hey friends, welcome or welcome back. I currently have a ton of books sitting around me right now. I got 6 little piles, separate sections of things I want to talk about with this video. This is going to be another little reading chat video. I'm going to update you on how my reading has been recently because I was on vacation and I'm back and I have lots of updates. And then I'm also going to talk about my June TBR and the books that I want to read in June and also go over a library haul. So we got lots to cover. Now, first of all, if I sound a little bit hoarse, that's because I am. I just literally got home about an hour ago because I went wedding dress shopping for the first time, and what an experience. It was a lot of fun. I went with my mom and my best friend, so lots of chatting, lots of time spent, just kind of out and about. And then my friend and I grabbed a bite after. So if I'm sounding hoarse or if I stop to drink water, that is why. But we'll just kind of hop right in. So yes, I just got back from vacation this week. It's currently Saturday. I got back on Monday and we went out of town for a friend's wedding and we just kind of decided to make a week of it. So we went out a little bit earlier, did a lot of hiking, trail walks, just kind of walking around the town. And I don't know who I thought I was when I was packing, but I literally packed so many books for this 5-day, 6-day vacation. I don't know who I thought I was or what kind of time I thought I was going to have, because when we go to this vacation spot, we spend all time, our entire time, outdoors, walking around town, eating, doing things, seeing things. That is the purpose of us going. I don't want to sit in my Airbnb or hotel and read all day. I packed The Serpent Called Mercy by Ron Lau, Daughter by Claudia Day. I brought my e-reader, which had some books that I was in the middle of. Then I brought She's a Lamb. And then I also brought October in the Earth. And I was over halfway The Serpent Called Mercy. And then I was exactly halfway into Daughter. And how far in was I? I think about 30 or 40% into Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, which I had on my e-reader. And then I brought 2 whole other books, thinking I was going to be starting them or reading them. And I brought She's a Lamb because I read the first few paragraphs of it. Absolutely loved it. And I was like, I need to read this. But also I have a ton of books on the go at the time. And so I was like, I need to pump the brakes on my eagerness and just finish up what I got currently right now. So I did that. I'm proud of myself. All the books that I did have on the go did carry into June here. So I've been reading them for literally the last 3 weeks. So when I say I finished this book this week and this book this week, don't think that I'm a reader who can finish 3 or more books in a week, because I can't currently. But these were all just been reading them over the last few weeks, and just this week I was able to finish them. So anyways, as far as the books I had finished on vacation, The Serpent Called Mercy by Ron Lau. Really enjoyed this. I'm going to dedicate a video to this because I found this to be a very unique reading experience, especially for a fantasy novel. I feel like I've already said too much by saying that, but I'm going to go in depth about this in the video. I thought that this was great overall. I'm still thinking on my rating, whether it's going to be 3.75 or 4, but regardless, one and the same. I enjoyed it. So when that video goes out, you can watch my review on that. And then when I came back, I finished Daughter by Claudia Day. Now, this was a very interesting read because if you remember from my last weekly reading chat, I had talked about how I was feeling fairly kind of moody and broody, and my mood color at the time was a navy blue. And I grabbed this book and was like, I think that this is going to, give me what I'm hoping to read currently right now. And it did start out that way. So what is this book about? This is about Mona, who is the daughter of Paul. This is a huge family tree coming, so just prepare yourself. Paul had Mona and Juliet with Natasha, and then Paul is now currently married to Cherry. So Cherry is Mona's stepmother, and Paul and Cherry had Ava together, and Cherry has sons from like a previous marriage, but the focus obviously is on daughters in this book. Now, literally within the first like 20 pages of reading this, I'm pretty sure the update that I put on Storygraph under like journal entries and stuff, I was like, what in the parasitic family relationships am I reading? Like, this was toxic. This was like, yeah, parasitic is the truest word. And basically, what I was expecting going into this book was a really in-depth kind of look at Mona's relationship with Paul and Cherry, and especially after reading some reviews, that's what I thought I was going to get for most of the book. And in the synopsis, obviously, it talks about how her relationship with her dad and Cherry and this thing that happened, how it impacts her as an artist and how she approaches her art. And there is a little bit of that in there, but we also got a lot of Mona's relationship with her current boyfriend. Mona goes through some very traumatic incidences in this book. Do look up trigger warnings if you're interested in reading this. And I just found sometimes it meandered along a little bit, and I was kind of like, oh, when are we going to get back to like Paul and Cherry and their relationship with Mona? And it's very much like is insular the right word? Like, I maybe potentially, but like, yeah, an insular look into Mona and her life and her thinking. Like, you're very much in it mentally with her. You do get the thinkings of other characters, which I found to be very interesting. And I think that the way that this story, like the structure of it, the beginning half, the first third of it, I would say was like 4 or 5 stars out of 5. Like, I really liked it. I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is messy. This is like just horrible people like Paul and Cherry. They're not good people. And I was really in it. I was really invested. And then I would say that probably the remainder of the book, I felt like a 3 out of 5. Like, I felt fine about it, you know? This was very artsy and dramatic in its delivery a little bit. Well, maybe dramatic's not the right word. I don't know. I'll think of a different word, but definitely very experimental, I think, in its writing, and artsy. I think that's probably a better word, which is not bad. I think that the writing worked for me at times, and at other times it didn't, and I did have to be in the mood to read this. And when I was in the mood for it, I was able to read big chunks of this. Like, I finished The Serpent Called Mercy on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. And then Sunday evening, I was on page like 100 of Daughter. And then Monday, I got to page like 200. Like, I read 100 pages within those 2 days. And so that's what I mean when when I'm in the mood to read it, it was good for me, and it flowed. But there were some portions that just didn't quite land for me totally. The one thing that really came through loud and clear, I think, and was written very, very well, where I almost felt that it was very personal. Like, I felt like I was reading someone's diary, was the descriptions of Paul and Cherry, and how really they only turn to their daughters or their children when they need something from them, and not need something from them as in money or take them out for lunch or whatever, but need something from them in a sense where they're looking to make themselves feel better about something. They need to confide in one of them. They want to relieve themselves of some kind of burden emotionally, mentally. They want to make themselves feel better about themselves. So they need their daughter around to kind of put them down or something like that. Like, very parasitic relationships. And I think that was written quite vividly and quite well. But yeah, so I think I feel a little bit on the fence about this book. I'm not going to put pressure on myself to decide a rating currently because I finished this last night. But I do think like a 3.25 is where I'm going to land on it. And that's not a bad rating, right? I thought, like I said, when I read it, I was like in it. But I think if I really gave it some constructive thought, like, yeah, I don't know. I think there's some aspects of this book that will stick with me for a while, but we'll also see. Now, the other book that I finished was Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. And this I read on my e-reader. I got notified from the library that it was available through Libby. And I really enjoy Ruth Ware's backlist items. She has some new releases that I don't know quite jive with me with what I'm looking for. And I think they're a little bit different than what she has kind of like historically published. So Dark, Dark Wood is, yeah, it's one of her older releases. And so I was like, oh, I'm in the mood to read a thriller. Like I could read something, especially on my e-reader, because I didn't have anything going on my e-reader and I like to read on it while I'm in bed. So I was like, hey, we'll download it. We'll go with it. But I do want to do a separate review video for that one as well, because I do want to just kind of talk about it unabridged, I suppose, or just like, not unabridged, I just want to yap about it a little bit. I got some thoughts on it and want to touch on some specific points about it. So that will come soon. The other book I finished is So You Want to Talk About Race. I don't know that I'm going to do a rating for this because this was fairly informative. A lot of the concepts or discussions in here were not unfamiliar to me, but did go into a little bit more depth than maybe the knowledge that I already had about it, which is good. That's a good thing. So the chapter on privilege and how knowing your privilege and what your privilege is and how that can actually help make change. I thought that was really interesting. There was one paragraph specifically where I benefit most from being able-bodied is where I have the most power and access to change a system that disadvantages disabled people. Where I benefit most from being cisgender is where I have the most power and access to change a system that disadvantages transgender people. When we identify where our privilege intersects with somebody else's oppression, we'll find our opportunities to make real change. I thought that was a really good and interesting way to look at privilege. And then the other ones that I found that I took quite a bit from was intersectionality, affirmative action, and affirmative action's benefits, its intended purpose and benefits, but then also the pitfalls that unexpectedly do unfortunately come from it, and model minority myth. I actually did not know that model minority myth. That was the first time I had heard upon reading that concept and that terminology. So that was a really interesting chapter. I found that this book serves its purpose, and I think it does it well. You ideally finish this book equipped to talk about race, but then also develop some compassion as well. Moving on to June TBR. So that's all the books that I have finished recently, and yeah, so that's going well. Now on to, June TBR. So from my May TBR, there are some books that I am carrying over into June. Two of those being Salt and Broom and October in the Earth. You can already see that I've started Salt and Broom. I'm literally just a few chapters into it at this point, but it's going fine. I'm not far enough in to say confidently like, oh, I'm loving this so far or anything. It's certainly, I would say, initial impressions fairly witchy, which is the author's intended purpose. Now, a couple of updates to you about my May TBR, because if I make a TBR video, I do want to stick with it to some extent. And one of the books that was on my May TBR, and I think This was my own mistake, but Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. So I did not realize this when I found this in the little free library, that this is actually the third book in a series. I did not have a clue, and I was trying to look to see if I could read this as like a standalone, but I don't think, based on what I've seen, I don't think I can. I think all three books are very interconnected with one another. And this third book, my understanding is that things really wrap up in here quite a bit. And so, yeah, I think if I went ahead and read this, I would do myself a disservice and I would do the book a disservice. Yeah. So I'm going to gift this back to a little free library. Will I read the Crazy Rich Asians series? I don't know. I'm not sure. So we'll see. But that is one update there. The other one is that as you saw in the video, I had also tried to find a edition of Little Women because there was like, I don't even know how many editions of Little Women that the library has, but I was like, there's one where it's like available in 3 months because of the hold times. And then there's this one that's available now. And I think I just didn't look into it enough, but it's one where like if you download it and if you have the Libby app on your phone, it shows up on your phone, but it won't show up on my e-reader. And I'm not about to read a book on my phone. That is just not my style. It's not my preference. And so I gave it back to the library and said, thanks, but no thanks. So that is the other adjustment to the TBR. However, I would say for the most part, I have stuck with it for generally. The other books that I talked about, there is Entitlement by Rumen Alam, posted a video review for that. Really enjoyed that book quite a bit. And then the other one that I was in the middle of when I filmed that video was The Guest by B.A. Paris. This was so disappointing. I gave it a very big whopping 1 star. What is this book about? I don't really remember, and I wish I could tell you a synopsis. You know what? No, let me try. I'm not going to do that to you. Okay, so we follow a married couple. I don't remember what their name is. I finished this early, kind of mid-ish May. So we followed a married couple. Another married couple moves into town. They have a gardener. Something happens. It's kind of like a what's going on? Who's done it? Situation. Someone dies, obviously. And this was a very, I think in my opinion, not a very well constructed mystery. Like at no point do I think that there was any, how do I want to word this? Like any attempt to build tension. Like tension was very flatlined the entire time. And I think with a mystery or thriller, like you do need, and you need tension, but I think readers want tension, right? Like you want some atmosphere, tension, like things to be building, right, to an eventual reveal. And I found that we followed along with mundane day-to-day conversations and activities of this married couple. And I kind of would like read the chapters and I was like, okay, well, obviously this mundane conversation is going to lead to something, because obviously I can see we're nearing the end of this chapter here. So something must come from this conversation. And then the chapter just ends. It just like in a very mundane way between this married couple. And then we move on to the next chapter. And like, it's very similar throughout the entire book. I did not like that. And the book ends and I'm like, okay. And the epilogue comes and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to read the epilogue. This is the longest epilogue I've ever read in my life. The longest. I don't know if there's a competition out there for longest epilogue, but B.A. Paris would get it for this book for sure. I'm sure I'm exaggerating with this page count, but it felt like this epilogue was like 20 or 30 pages long. And I don't know how long it was on the e-reader or how long it would be in the actual book, but it took forever. And within the epilogue is where all the reveals and explanations as to what's going on is revealed. Yeah, I don't know. And B.A. Paris, like I'm well acquainted with her writing. She is really an author who got me into reading thrillers. I think of books like The Breakdown. There's another book of hers. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but she has books that have really helped me kind of soiree into the thriller world and reignited my love for reading as an adult over 6 years ago. And so this was really disappointing. It was extremely, extremely disappointing. Yeah, didn't love that. So, long and short, finished some of the books on my TBR and carrying over some, and then abandoning others. Now, as far as my June TBR goes, so again, Salt and Broom, and then October in the Earth, I'm carrying into June. And then there is also, so Dana Ella runs the Thrills and Chills book club, and this month in June, they always do like Thrills and Chills camp. And for the last 2 years, I have kind of participated where like I've done the bingo board for the month of June. The first year, I think I did it where I just did a bingo straight across. And then last year, I did a reading vlog for the whole month where I tried to just fill as many squares as I could. And then this year, I'm going to just try to get a bingo just straight across, because I have a library haul to show you. So I don't think I'll have time to try to read as many books as I can for the Thrills and Chills to get like to fill the bingo board. So anyways, however, I am doing it very efficiently this year. I have 2 books that I have, one of which I have read already, and then one that I am currently reading that are both going to help me get a bingo. The first one is A Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I finished that in June, and so that helps me meet some prompts on the bingo. But then also their Thrills and Chills book club month pick is Hunted by Darcy Coates. And I'm only a few chapters into this at this point, but I am enjoying the concept so far. It opens with us being in the woods with this female main character. I can't remember what her name is. But anyway, so she's being stalked by something in the woods. She's lost. She went on a hike and she's lost. And it's getting dark out, and the only source of light that she has is from her camera. And so she's taking pictures and use the flash, and she sees something. She sees the thing that is stalking her. So really eerie way to start a book, and I really, really liked it. And then the rest of the chapters from here on out have been her friends and family just kind of starting the efforts of trying to figure out what happened, where she is, because she went on a hike, she didn't come back. So that's going well so far. Now, the rest of my June TBR is my library haul. Now, a lot of these are books that I have talked about in my upcoming and recent releases video. And it's funny because when I did that video, I jumped in the hold line for all of those books, and never do I think that all the holds are going to become available to me immediately, but they always do, always. And so they all came through. Now, one of those, actually, I'll talk about that one last because I want to read some of the parts of that. Home of the American Circus, the original daughter, and then She's a Lamb. Such a stellar cover. I love this cover. Just draws me right in. Now, I do want to read just a couple of the first paragraphs of this. because this book really drew me in and was why I took it with me on my vacation, because I was like, I need to read this. All right. For a while, I had this very incredible and powerful fantasy that goes like this. My career blossoming, of course. My skin glowing. My dress gorgeous. Something timeless, sleek, mature, forward-thinking, couture maybe. Me sitting in the crowd at the Tony Awards, waiting for them to announce Best Performance by a Leading Actress musical. I smiled, close-lipped, a serene expression slapped on my face to disguise the anxiety within. Drumroll, a sharp inhale, a bead of sweat trickles down my spine, and then, of course, they call my name. I throw my head back in delight, smile at my father, who I brought as my date, for the photo op, for the tabloids to call so sweet, and walk towards the stage, hand pressed to my chest in apparent shock. They hand me the statue. Everyone is looking at me. Everyone. I put the small dime sheep thing on the ground and stare out at the audience, at the other actresses from my category, literally salivating at the prospect of me freezing or fainting or both. Instead, I make a joke. Then, with the class of someone twice my age, I reject the reward, making a timely political statement that resonates with the hearts and minds of the crowd. We're doing important work here, but out there, out in the world, real life is happening, and I am so aware of it. My ego dead, my career on fire. Everyone leaps to their feet, applauding my bravery. The metaphorical phone is already ringing. I stride off the stage and into the flood of media attention. People shouting, thousands of cameras flashing. Someone captures a video of my speech, puts it online. I get hundreds and thousands of followers. My manager sets up talk show interview after talk show interview. I'm immortalized forever, beloved by everyone. Like, it's just like obviously a daydream, because then right after, like, somebody gets her attention and kind of breaks the daydream that she's having. But yeah, the other two books that I had gotten from the library is Swimming in the Dark by Thomas, what is his name? Jodorowsky, I believe is how to pronounce that. And this is it's set in 1980s Poland against the violent decline of communism, a tender and passionate story of first love between two young men who eventually find themselves on opposite sides of the political divide. A stunningly poetic and heartrending literary debut for fans of Andre Oxman, Garth Greenwell, and Alan Hollinghurst. I have not read anything from Garth Greenwell and Alan Hollinghurst, but I have read Call Me By Your Name by Andre Oxman, and I really enjoyed that one quite a bit. And that one's been on my TBR for a while, and it's a shorty, so I think it'll pack a bit of an emotional punch. Now, the other one that I got is the Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. And this is about a woman who moves to some isolated cabin somewhere after a divorce, explores what it means to retreat from the world, the true nature of forgiveness, and the sustained effect of grief on the human soul, which is quite a oomph. The human soul, not even just grief, effects of grief, but effects on the human soul. You know what I mean? Now, one book that I did want to share that I had got while I was on vacation, and I make a habit of getting a book at this spot every time we go, because they have a little indie bookstore there, and there's one table that is fully dedicated to just like outdoorsy type books. And I bought A Year in the Woods from there last time I was there. Really enjoyed that. I've talked about that. And then this time I bought The Way of the Hermit, My Incredible 40 Years Living in the Wilderness by Ken Smith with Will Millard. And I believe Will Millard helps write the book, and Ken Smith is the 74-year-old Ken Smith has spent the 4 decades in the Scottish Highlands. He basically lives in log cabins. He's considered a hermit. And so really it's just how he got there, how he survived, essentially. And it's funny because sometimes I like to call myself a hermit. I can be a very introverted individual. And especially on the weekends occasionally, because sometimes my weeks can be very, very busy, and sometimes I just need to hermit to recover a little bit, recover the social battery. And I think when not to say that I would go to these extremes of truly, truly hermiting. However, that's kind of what drew me to it. I was like, oh, I hermit sometimes, and, but obviously not to this extent. So I picked it up, and I feel like it'll have very impactful messaging in it. It's, let's see here. One of the blurbs on the back says, for anyone who feels they are merely going through the motions, this book will make an inspiring read. So yeah, there are definitely some weeks where I do kind of feel like just going through the motions and whatnot, and sometimes taking a break and going in nature and looking at a tree, as silly as it sounds, and touching grass. It definitely goes a long way on us as people and humans, not to be dramatic or anything, but I can't remember who said it before or where I read it. It might have been online somewhere, maybe Instagram, that really people are just kind of like very finicky houseplants. Like, we all need sun, we all need water, we need to be outdoors, we need, to feel fresh air and, all these things. So, yeah. But anyways, I look forward to reading this whenever I get around to it. I don't know that it'll be in June per se, but I did want to share that book that I had bought. So I'm slowly amassing well, not amassing, that makes it sound like I have more than like 5 books, but I would like a collection of books that are just kind of like nonfiction, outdoorsy ones, eventually. So we'll see. All right. Now, what else did I want to chat with you guys about? Oh yeah, so upcoming videos. So like I mentioned, I'm going to do a book review video for Serpent Called Mercy, Dark Dark Wood, and then Jessica over at Jessica Ask had tagged me in a book tag video, and so I'll be doing that as well. I'm going through a bit of a content change in the direction of my content and what my channel is probably going to look like moving forward. And it's not a huge fundamental change, but I think you'll see more single book review videos and more videos just kind of like this. It's on my plan to eventually to make a video just kind of talking about content making, and as it relates to just kind of like my own thoughts about it. So, because there's some interesting conversations going around on BookTube right now, specifically about like, are we reading all the same books, and being truthful about what you're reading. I feel like maybe those conversations are always going on, but I don't know. I'm seeing them. The algorithm is pushing it to me lately. So, but anyways, that is the chatty update from like the last couple of weeks. I'll probably post another one of these next week, maybe, with just kind of like how I'm feeling about Salt and Broom or October in the Earth, maybe even Hunted, just providing kind of like halfway point updates and any other chatty reading updates that I could provide. But yeah, that's where I'm going to close it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched to this point, feel free to like and subscribe. I am going to go and drink a lot of water, maybe get a cup of tea for my throat. But I will see you all in the next video. I hope you're enjoying what you're reading. See you.